All right. um, all right, you guys can see my screen. So the role of function, as we looked at, is to take something in, transform it, and make it something. For example, if I have a function called sandwich, right? Then I can take example, like I can build a sandwich, right? So I can say let a burger, for example, burger equal to make, or burger factory, right? And the input would be, you know, bread, lettuce, you know, meat, whatever you want to put, right? So anytime I want to make burger, all I have to do is call this function with different ingredients, and I would get a burger. Okay, that's the objective of function. So you build something one, it's almost like a factory, right? You build something once and just use it multiple times whenever you like, right? This way, this helps you build complex functionality, name it to something meaningful like Burger Factory, and you can have burgers. Okay. A simple example. Some people are joining, so I'm going to let them in. Another example, as we looked at a more practical one, this is more, real world example of having a function, but we can build calculator, right? So I can say sum equal to add 1 and 2, right? How it happens, the adding functionality is inside this, right? I can say interest equal to interest calculator, right? Where you would get the rate, let's say 3.5, the amount, right? Let's say $1,000, and it would, and then you can also put the number of years, right? So let's say 30 years or something like that, right? And this would give you your interest based on that, right? A cumulative interest, whatever you can build inside this. All right. So this is, I want you to, understand functions are, pretty simple. As I said, it takes something, which is argument, and it returns something, which is the result, right? Okay. Any question on this one? Okay. So now let's look at something else, which is something that we're gonna use a lot, which is called callback function. What is a callback function? So callback function is sort of like a function that you can call it from inside another function. You can pass a function as an argument and then call it inside a function. Why do we need it? And one of the great examples that I wanted to show you is this. Let's say if you have a button, and I'm gonna first show you the example. Okay, so here we're gonna use HTML. So I'm gonna create a div, let's say, with some ID called main. Okay, and then it says click me. If I look at this, I would get this button here. Well, let's make it a button with ID main. Click me. Okay, and you get something like this. I'm gonna give you time, to play around with this once I'm done with it. So this is HTML, right? And if I want to access this button, and I want to create an event, which means whenever I click on this button, I want something to happen. Like I just want to simply say, hey, you clicked me or something. Okay. So how do we achieve this? So in JavaScript, if I want to access this, there are multiple ways to do it. One way to do it is using the ID. Okay, so I can say grab, I want some action on this button, which has an ID main. Okay, so the way to do it is this right here. So I would say document.getElement by ID. Okay, so I'm just gonna use that here. And the ID would be main, right? Again, this is an example. You're not gonna probably do this kind of stuff because we're gonna use React, which lets you access it much easily than remember this kind of syntax, and you will find that very useful. So what's happening here? Document is nothing but your entire HTML page. Okay. Get element by ID is I'm trying to access an element, which is button here, and the name of the ID that I have to pass, which is main. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to add an event. So there is a way to add an event listener. See how difficult this is in terms of remembering the syntax? So this is raw JavaScript, which means you have to remember all of this stuff. With React, it becomes much easier. So let's remember again. So you have a document, we get the ID, which is this guy. And then I say, okay, I'm going to add an event. So event listener is something called, I can add an event to this one. So whenever I click on here, it will then execute this function called display data. And we haven't defined this yet. Okay. So it's some function that we're going to call display data, or we can say something. Let's just call it say something. Okay, that's it. We haven't defined this yet. So the syntax would be add event listener. What event do we want to listen to, which is click. Okay, and then what happens when you click it, which is this function. So they have built a generic event listener, which basically you can add anything, right? So instead of saying that when I click on it, this should happen, right? Instead of saying that, it's saying, when I click on it, you decide what to do, right? And that makes much more sense because as a user, I wanted to decide what to do. I don't want to pre-build event that does specific things, right? So this gives us a power to do whatever we want from outside. So what I'll do is I'll build this function, call a function say something. Okay, and then all I'm going to do is just console log something said. That's all it's going to do. All right, so let's see. Let's first make sure that there are no errors here. Say something is not defined because I misspelled it here, I suppose. Okay, so it should work now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click here, and it says something said, right? So this is called callback function, which means at
add event listener gives you freedom, to call something outside. It allows you to pass a functionality that we as a developer choose, right? And so this is the concept of callback function, which means, you don't implement as part of this your main function. You partial functionality, you can pass it from outside. Okay, make sure that you grasp this idea, because it's pretty important. You're going to be using a lot for clicks and other stuff. Okay. Obviously with not this syntax, this is the longer syntax, so you don't have to remember this, obviously, but this is pretty important. I can also do this. I can change this to nothing said or whatever, right? Okay, and if I click on it, it changes. Let me clear this first. Okay, it says nothing said. So we have freedom to do whatever. I can create another function and then replace this. I can say function print random number. Okay. Remember we learned about the random numbers last time? I'm assuming we did, where I'm just going to return or print or console log, should I say, math.random. And then I would replace this. So now instead of says something, it would print a number, a random number. So when I click on this one, it prints a random. Everyone try this out. It's pretty simple, but then this will let you, and then build your own function, whatever you want to do, right? Build your own function, try this out. I'll give you guys a few minutes to do that. Practice. I'm going to go mute and grab some water meanwhile. Let me know if you're getting trouble. Not if you're not getting this, we can resolve it. It's usually when you run something like this, if it doesn't work, it's because you misspelled something. Make sure that you exactly type what's here, right? You can create your own function, but this stuff you have to exactly type as it is. So if E is capital, make sure that E is capital. All right, anyone still working on it? Just put something in chat so we can do it accordingly, because I want you to try it out and then move forward. All right. Looks like everybody finished. Put not finish if you're not done. Okay, so number could not run. Number could not run. What do you mean by number could not run?
So I just typed the same, but I run this, but I didn't see this number.
Oh, the math.random?
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of things you
Math.random.
have to do, right? First of all, you have to click on it, right? Did you click on this button?
Yeah.
So you have to console.
And it only shows say something. Yeah.
Okay, so did you change this function here? This you have to call the right function. If this says say something, it's gonna print say something.
Oh.
If you have to replace this function name. See,
Oh,
I have
okay.
two functions. So the objective of this is that I can create any function and I can pass in. So every time I click on it, result will be different, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
So make sure that you
So
try.
the computer read the first function and then read the second one.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Computer, it will remember both functions, but whichever you passed here is the result of this going to show up here.
Oh, okay.
See,
Okay,
I have the function say something, but I'm not using right now anyway.
Oh, okay.
Right. But
it.
if I did this, right, and then let me clear this first.
I need to match the name.
Yeah. So
Okay,
and then it says. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Programming is all about practice. If you don't practice, it will evaporate from your brain. So you need to do a lot of practice. Okay. All right. So I'm assuming that everybody got it. Going one, going twice. All right. So let's understand. So this we looked at some practical example where we can see that this makes sense, right? Because if this add event listener has a specific event, it always says say something, then it doesn't really work for us, right? So we want something called flexible. So we have this abstraction. This is an abstract function that takes any callback function on a click event and then does something, right? Similarly, you can do, I think, hover. I don't know if it's gonna work, but we have to look at the not hover. Double click. Let's look at add event listener. What kind of events you can do, right? So you have an event and then function, right? So we can look at different kind of events. So click is one of the events, right? Oh, mouse over. Let's do mouse over. So instead of hover, say mouse over. And now, if I just mouse over this, you see, it does. I just have to mouse over this. You can also do mouse out, and there are a bunch of other resize. So tons of events you can do, right? So in your spare time, you can try this, a lot of things out, right? So you see, every time I do mouse over, it prints. Let's say if I, instead of say something, if I use print number here, right? And then hover, you see it's every time I hover, it prints a new number. Okay, you can try this out. So this is a concept of callback function. Now let's build our own callback function. So this is, we don't know what's happening inside, right? In this function, how is it actually using this print random inside, right? But we can create our own. So I'm just going to hide the HTML part, and then I'm going to replace this. I'm going to keep the print number. Okay. So we can create another function called execute or something. Execute anything, and execute callback. Okay. And it takes two arguments. It takes something fixed. Or let's just have test. It says something. Okay. And then it takes another argument. So this would be message. And the next thing would be, we can call it callback, which could be anything, right? Callback function. So remember, functions have arguments, right? So I have one argument and a second argument. And then inside, so this could be anything. Remember, we had click here. So if I want to execute this callback, for example, I can, the first argument is message, right? So I can say hello. And then the second argument can be, one of these. I can do print number. I just do print number. I'm just going to pass I'm not putting strings around it, right? Which means I'm passing the reference to this, which means it's being passed inside. Okay. So this callback function is nothing but this print. So if you look at the first argument is a message. The second argument is the callback function, which is this guy. So all I want to do is just execute this callback function inside, which means this print random is going to execute inside. So I'm just going to take this and then execute it for now. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to set it up behavior here so that it doesn't auto run. So I can, I think I showed you last time, so that it doesn't automatically run every time you change. You go to settings, click on the behavior and disable the second option here. Okay, now I have this run button. So if I click on run, it will print this random number. So how is it doing it, right? So I'm calling, think about it this way. I'm calling this execute callback, which takes two things. Hello, which we haven't done anything with hello, by the way. And then print random, right? So it passes hello as a message and print number as a callback function. And then this callback function is nothing but inside now. It's this print random, right? Because I passed that. And then inside it just executes itself, right? It's called from this other function. That's why it's called callback function. And then anytime I run it, it will run this function and it console log this, right? For say something, let's change the structure of this function. I can have a message and it's just gonna
print the message, right? Which means whatever I print, if I say hi, it's going to console log hi. If I say hello, it's going to console log hello. Okay. So now, instead of message, what I can do is call back function 1, and I'm going to call this callback function 2. Okay. So whatever the first function I pass here, it's going to get executed. So we can execute both. Right. And so now I'm going to do is say, I'm going to say something here. And remember, callback function, it's always, it's which order that you send, right? So callback function 1 is say something right now. Callback function 2 is print random. And now remember, this requires some sort of message inside, right? The first one. So I'm just going to say something called hello. That's it, inside. All right. And I'm going to run it. Now it's going to run both. You see, from inside it called hello, which is the callback function 1, and then it callback function 2 is print random. So it did both. Let's try this out. I'm just going to remove some spaces from here so that we have more space. Let's try this out. And again, feel free to change these functions to whatever you like, right? You can add something or remove something. I don't know, add 2 numbers and just play around with it. The objective is to create function outside and then use this execute callback as a shell function to do multiple things with it, right?
Can I ask a question that
Sure.
for the arguments within after the execute callback function, those 2 arguments can be anything, like the name is whatever with one name.
Oh, here? Here?
No. Yeah, this one, yeah.
These 2 arguments?
No, the function execute callback.
Okay.
Callback function 1 and callback function 2.
Yes.
Yeah. Like these 2 arguments can be whatever name, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I can create another function, you know, XYZ, right? I can create XYZ and say this becomes XYZ. I don't know.
I see.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, right? The objective is, this is just for internal reference. So basically the first argument is called here, second argument is called here, right?
Okay, yeah.
Pass into first and second argument, it's up to you. And that's the power of this callback function, right? It's similar to when we did the click. We didn't really care what, so in there, I think the first argument was click, which is a string, it was a fixed argument, right? It wasn't a callback function, the first one, but the second one was a callback function, which said say something, we passed and it did something, right? And so it probably did something like this inside.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
And you can also shorten this, called CB1 and CB2 or something. So it's easy to write. And let me know if you have any doubts, right? Because we're going to be using this a lot, especially when you click on something or hover on something. We're going to say, hey, on hover, execute this function, right? So we'll just pass the function inside. So imagine if you build a game where you're supposed to let's say it's a tic-tac-toe game, right? And if I click on X, if I one of the blocks inside that game, it's supposed to do something, right? So that function we're going to build outside, right? And there'll be a callback which says click. And so whatever you pass in is going to execute. And let me know, I mean, always want your feedback. Let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow. You know, some students prefer faster, some student prefers.
Yes, that would be better if we could have more examples and cases.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, great. All right. Everyone done with this? Try it out. Let me know if you're still working on it or something is not executing. Okay. Most of the difficulty with the programming is remembering the syntax, right? When usually programming is like solving some problems, right? So if you are building a game, is solving a problem in a way, right? So you say, okay, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna have this kind of user interface. Then if I click on here, something should happen. How do we count the score? How do we do this and this? So all of these are problems, and remembering. Let's say if I want to produce some random number, and if you don't remember how to produce a random number, it becomes an obstacle, right? So then you have to go and solve it. Hey, I had to figure out Google, okay, how do we create a random number, right? So the best way that I handle this kind of situation is I usually have a sort of like a paper where I would write, a quick syntax. If I want to do this is syntax, and it should not be more than 3 or 4 paper, and so anytime I want to do something, I can just look at the reference. For example, arrays, right? So I want to add something, I would use push. If I'm going to remove something, I would use pop. So it would not take a huge amount of space, but so you can do 2 to 3 page of reference card with all of it on it, the whole JavaScript that we learned so far. And that would help you. You don't have to go back to my videos or anything. You just look at it. Oh, this is how you do it. And then you start coding, right? All right. Anybody still working on it? Just type in, I'm working on it. How to add callback function to. Can you say what do you mean by that? How to add callback function?
And I if I write exactly like yours, no problem around. But if I add something like hello, I use other words and in the function 2, and it didn't show up.
Yeah, function 2
This one, right? Oh, you were trying
Yeah,
to do something like this?
Yeah.
Okay. So function, what is function 2? Think of this way. Just look at the mapping. Function 1 is this. Function 2 is this, right? Function 1 requires a message that you pass in and it says something. Function 2 doesn't require. So the print random, even if you pass something here, it doesn't do anything with it, right? It simply just prints a random number, right?
Mm.
So even if I have something, let's say message here, it's not doing anything with it, right? So if you look at the structure of this function, it doesn't take any argument, which you can see it doesn't take any argument. So what if you put, it's not going to show because it's supposed to show the random number.
Oh, okay.
Right. But if I change the structure of it and do something like this, message, and then here I would say message plus random number, right? And then I would say, here I would say the random number is, okay, something like this. When I run this, you see,
Oh,
the
yeah.
first one is hello, and the
Yeah.
second one took this argument, which is the message, and then added that random number at the bottom here, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Got it.
Okay, yeah. So ask question if you're stuck, because this will help you. You know, I don't want to move too fast. I want you to. This is probably the most important concept in JavaScript, callback function. Okay, now let's do something more even fun. What if I want to pass this? I don't want to fix this stuff, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass message 1, message 2 here. Okay, so I'm going to add these 2 parameters here. All right, and then I'm going to use this to pass this inside here. So I'm passing now everything from outside, nothing from inside. Okay, so now the responsibility of this function is to pass not only the 2 function, but 2 messages. So the first message is hello, and the second message was random number is, right? So what's going to do is it's going to, this is nothing but the first function, this is nothing but the second function, this is nothing but hello, and this is nothing but this. So it takes all 4 that I passed here, and then you use it to do what I exactly did before. Right? So now I don't really, nothing is hard coded here, right? Which this is truly flexible function. If I say hi here, right? Then this would say hi. I can say go away. It would say go away, right? So I get a lot of flexibility here. Similar to the other example where we looked at click, on click what to do. I had mouse over what to do, right? So it's completely flexible function. Let's modify it to do this. Remember, you have to also modify this message before this wasn't there. once you finish this, I'm going to give you a little exercise that you can do right now, where I'm going to give you a function, something like this, and I want you to build all three of this by yourself. And it's going to be a fun exercise. Always refer to this so you can create another code pen on the side so you have a reference. Don't just edit this inside. Create another one so you have something to refer to. Okay. Everyone done with this one? If you are, then I can give you that new one. All right, some of those folks are not speaking much, so I'm just gonna go one by one. Dale, are you done?
Yeah, sorry, I was just typing. I am
Oh,
finished.
no, that's fine. That's fine. I just want to make sure that there's people. Megan.
Yeah, I'm finished.
Just-
Sorry, I was
okay.
typing as well.
All right. How about Miko? Miko, Anasa, and Nasiba.
I finished.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Cool. All right. So great. So now I'm going to give you, and I'm going to keep this here. I'm just going to hide the console for now. I want you to build this function, and it's called calculator. Okay. It's going to take three things. It's going to take a callback function and two numbers. Okay, so this is the structure of this. Okay, so if I were to build this, this is the structure. This is what we want to build. I can call it something like this, calc, or just say calc. Shorter is better, so you can have less spelling mistake. And here, I can create a function called add. So this is a function because remember there are no quotes around it. And then I can pass 1 and I can pass 2. And this would then return or print 3, right? So you have to build this add function. Okay. And then I can call the same calc function and I can say mult 1 and 2, and this would return or print 2, right? Because I'm multiplying. All right. Let's do this, and then I can extend it. So you need to build a calculator, and you also need to build 2 callback functions. But calculator only take 1, right? So if you pass this one, then it would do this. If you pass this one, it would do this. And remember, do it in a separate code pen so you can look at the reference what you've done so far. And just type done once in the chat if you finish it. I'll be back in a second. All right. So how are we doing? Anyone done, or are we still working on it? All right. Looks like everybody's still working on it. So I'll give you a few more minutes. But this is an important example. You want to, so the concept of callback function is pretty simple. You just pass everything that you need inside and then, call it from it, right? That's it. You just have to remember the order that you're calling things in, right? So think of this in this term, right? The first argument is this callback function. You just pass add here, the callback becomes add, this becomes number one, this becomes number two. Inside this function, then how do you call this, right? And what will be the structure of then add? Once you do a couple of these, then you're gonna be, oh, this is so simple. Okay. All right, a few people send me direct message and they're done. So you can do the same thing. You can just put the code there if you want me to look at it. Send me a direct message. Don't send it to everyone. If you don't understand, just replace stuff inside this guy and start looking at that reference, how you would build this, right? And you will come to this. Okay, let's go until 5:07. So 2 more minutes, and then I'll show you the solution. Yeah, beware of the spelling errors. 90% of the time when something doesn't work for me, it's usually I misspelled it. So yeah, I learned, I learned from it. So what I do now is if something doesn't work, I'll just copy and paste, copy, paste. So I'm just doing the same thing over and over, right? So all right. So let's build this now. So we need to do two things. We need to build something inside here, right? So all I'm going to do is this add function, right? It's going to return 3, which means add takes 2 argument, 2 numbers, right? And this add is nothing but this callback function. I'm going to pass, I'm passing add and multiply. So let's build those 2 functions, right? And I'm just going to comment out this, guys. Let's build a function add, which takes number 1, number 2, and all it does is returns or prints. In this case, I'm just console logging, right? So just console log number 1 plus number 2, right? I can just copy paste this and I can do mult. And in this case, instead of plus, I'm just going to multiply this too. Okay. Now, when I pass this add here, which becomes a callback function. So think of callback function is now add or multiply because it has exactly the same signature, right? It has 2 arguments, number 1 and number 2, right? Both of them. So now this number 1 and number 2, I'm just going to pass in here. Actually, you can do here just n1 and n2, so it doesn't get confused with this one, right? So I'm going to do that, n1, n2, n1, n2. Okay. So add requires 2 arguments. So once I pass add inside, which is nothing but this callback function, whatever I passed here, it's gonna pass the add, which is this, and it's gonna pass 2 numbers, 1 and 2. So now inside I can use that add function, and there's 1 and 2. That's it. And then it would print. Let's run this. Right, 3 and 2. So this is the answer. Okay. Conceptually, it's pretty simple, right? You take a function, which is nothing but one of these functions, and then it requires two numbers, right? So you just pass it from here. Any question to this one?
I do have a question.
Sure.
I'm trying to picture or imagine the cases where if you use this, does that mean that you could refer to a function in different callback functions? Is that the reason for it being separated?
Yeah, so I can build generic calculator, right? I can have add, multiply. So the imagine you have a calculator, right? So you build a calculator, and you said, well, in calculator, I'm going to allow you to have two numbers. You can pass whatever whatever you want to pass here, right? It could be any numbers, and it will return something, or it will print something, right? So if you look at this, it's pretty abstract. It says I'm going to pass a function with two numbers, and that function's going to execute with those arguments. That's what it means, right? And then I'm going to pass this function and those arguments, and it's going to build this basically inside and execute it, right? So in a way, it's a common pattern that refers to as abstraction, right? You build a mold to do something. So this is almost like a mold, which takes multiple things and then build based on that. This allows us to also change the add. So let's say if this was like interest calculator, right? And the way we calculate interest, let's say, if changes, then we don't have to change the calculator. We just change the function that does the calculation, right? So everything else inside here remains the same. It's a small example. But you will see. I think the previous example was much better. The click and mouse over, right? So it allows you to do multiple things without changing it. So you will never change that add event listener function. It can add, let's say if you introduce a new type, right? Then that type has to be defined outside. Okay. But you're not going to do this kind of complex things, right? You're going to mostly do the events that I showed. But in order to show the concept, I had to, go through this. Just read it multiple times, watch this video again, and build stuff around it. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to look at the actual example of some of the callback functions that are already pre-built. So they have built functions like this. It's called pre-built function, and they do something. This is a very simple example where we take this and execute it, but there are examples we're going to look at that are so useful. One of such function, it's called map function. So imagine if you have an array. So let's say if I have let nums equal to an array, and array has this structure, right? I'm just going to take sequence, right? I want to build a function that doubles every number. So the resulting array would be, I'd say 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, right? So 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 3 becomes 6, 4 become 8, and 5 become 10. Okay. If I were to do this, I would have to write a function which take this array as an argument. Then I have to loop through every single number, right? And then I would have to say, you know, whatever number I get, double it, and then create a new array and then insert it inside. Okay, which is a lot of work. So let's repeat the steps. What I have to do is I would have to build a function, right? Which basically go through every number, go through each number one by one, right? Then what it would do, then it would double the number, right? And it would insert in a new array, insert the number in a new array, right? And then what it would do, and then it would return the array, the new array, right? Make sense? Okay, what if I wanted to triple the numbers, right? If I want to triple the numbers, which means 1 would become 3, 2 would become what? 6, right? And so on and so forth. I would have to do this exactly the same thing. But instead of double the numbers, I have to triple the number, right? So I can build a generic function that does all of it, except all I have to do is pass this doubling and tripling the functionality from outside, right? If I can do that, then I can just pretty much process any number. So if I want to process every number and do something with it, all I have to focus on is what is that processing function? That's it. Which means if I know how to double something or triple something, all of this is redundancy, right? So JavaScript has a built-in function. So if I do, let's say, let double equal to, I'm going to take the number, which is nums, and it has a function called map. It does the same thing. Mapping means it's going to map every number to a new number. That's it. So the resulting array would have exactly the same number of elements. It will have 5 elements, and each number can be double or triple or something like that, right? So this, we can abstract out this functionality. So how to double something? Let's build a function that doubles something. What it would do, take a number, right? And all it would do is return twice the number. That's it. Okay. If I want to triple it, return 3 times the number. So I build this functionality here. Okay. And a map function would let you do the rest of it. It will go through all the number, and what it will do, it will have this function pass from outside. So I'm just going to pass this function called double. That's it. So it has this sequence already built inside, except for doubling, it will take whatever argument you pass, which is double here, and it will do the doubling of the number. Let's use this. See, and you will see how easy this becomes now for doing this kind of stuff. Oh, well, I have the console log. I'm just gonna call it not double. It's gonna be, this is supposed to be doubler, or I'm just gonna call it result, because it won't let me redefine the same thing again. Okay. You see, it doubled everything. So I did not change map function. I just said, okay, the functionality that I'm going to pass, which is going to take care of the doubling of the number, it's inside is just doing exactly the same thing. It just replaces that, right? If I do triple, it triples the numbers. You can see here. It's so nice, right? I don't have to build the whole thing. Plus, I have so much flexibility. What if I wanted to do, instead of double or triple, I wanted to do square. Right? Which I can do, which means I'm going to return number, multiply number, right? So 1 become 1, 2 become 4, 3 become 9, and so on and so forth. Let's pass square inside. Run this, and you can see now it did the square. Okay, so this is pretty much how it works. Let's try this, everyone. Let me. I'm just going to put at the bottom here, just in case if you want to see it. But ultimately, this is the build something of your own. Just build a function that does something weird with this number, right? And pass it and see if it works. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that.
Sorry, I put a question in the chat. I just want to ask, in this case, we're using the values under let, like result is what's calling back the function.
Again, we don't know how it does it. As I said, you see, it will go through each numbers, which is this, right? It will go through each number one by one. Then it will, instead of doubling, it would run the callback function on each number, right? So then I have only one of these, which could be anything, right? So if I have square, it's going to run square with each number. Again, we don't know the construction of it. I mean, I can build it myself, right? But we don't have to worry about it. Just think about this, right? That map function basically maps one-to-one mapping of the result. So in the end, it will go through each number, run the callback function for each number, right? So doubles every number, and then inserts it inside. It creates a new array where it inserts each number one by one, right? And then once the array is built, it will return that new array. Actually, we can build this in a minute if you want to, and you will see how it works. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So the result is a resultant array that this map function produces. And you're going to be using this function a lot. So it's basically mapping. So you're going to pass something, and it will return something else, right? and it's pretty effective. Not only number, it can do a lot of different things, right? It's so useful, this function, and the concept is so simple that it will allow you to do a lot of different transformation. Those who took the React class previously, let's say if I take each element and if I want to insert something or translate something, right? I can do that, and I can create an HTML using this, right? So map is pretty useful function. So from now on, you have to remember how to use it. Again, the whole objective was to show you what happens probably inside. So when you actually use it, you kind of understand you're not going to build your own callback functions or this something like a map, right? In a more advanced world, you would, but the whole objective so you can use something like this, right? Where you can say, okay, I'm mapping. What am I mapping? I'm squaring everything, right? And then by reading it, you will understand what the result will be, right? And that's the objective. So you have this power to do whatever. Otherwise, we have to build 5 different functions that read every number and do all kind of stuff, right? Which is kind of useless or redundant, should I say. Yeah, G-Funk did a pretty interesting example, divide, where she divides the same number by the same number, and then you'll get all the ones, which is pretty interesting. I can also create a function called blah. And it takes each number and returns blah. Okay, let's see what happens, right? It disregards the number completely. So if I pass blah in here, what would happen? You'll get a bunch of blahs, blah, blah, blah. Did I make a mistake? Oh, I'm missing it all. As I said, 90% of my bugs are related to spelling errors. Okay, so you get a bunch of blahs here, which is kind of interesting, right? So just to show that what is possible here. If everybody's done, then I can show you how this would work, right? Obviously, I'm not going to build a map function, but I'll show you how to do that. If I were to take every number and, do the same thing. So let's build this. So we have to do this. We have to go through each number one by one, and then we have to do some calculation, which I'm just going to fix it. So let's say we build this function called, I'm just going to add another P so it doesn't confuse with the, right? And instead of like num start, which is a completely different, I'm just going to pass something inside, which is, let's say, array. Okay. So it passes an array, and I'm going to have, and it will return an array. So this array is nothing but basically bunch of numbers. So when I call it, I will call it something like this.
map, and I can pass 1, 2, 3, something like this, right? And console log to see if it doubles or not, right? Okay, so what I have to do firstly, I have to go through each number. So I can have a for. Remember for loop, let num of array, right? So I'm reading each number. I have to also create another array called let result, or not or final, let's just call it final, equal to an empty array, right? I create an empty array. And then what I'll do, I'll read whatever the array would be, which is this numbers, right? I'm going to read them one by one, which this is doing the same thing. And I get this number, right? And I'm just going to do final dot push. I'm going to take the number. I'm going to say 2 multiply by the number, right? So it will double every number. Okay, so let's run this. And let me just comment everything out here. Okay. Oh, I haven't actually returned it, and I have to return the final, right? Because you have an empty array, then you push stuff inside by doubling every number, and then you this array would have all these numbers, and then I'll return it. So in the end, I'll get 2, 4, 6, right? So that's how this works. Pretty simple, right? Now I can create a callback function called CB, right? And I can then take the callback and just pass a number inside. Okay, so it will take 2 arguments. One is the array in this case, and the second would be callback function. So we already have the double somewhere here, right? So I'm just gonna take this and enable it here, right? So double, that's it, right? So I created my own map function. That doubles it. If I want to pass triple, I can pass triple, and it does that, right? But as I said, the reading of every number, it does, and then this is the only thing that changes the game, right? That I'm passing from outside, right? That allows you to do whatever you want to do with each of these numbers. So that's why this map function is so powerful that it's a simplest syntax. It's like map double, which means you get every number as double. It's beautiful in a way. And so you don't have to do all of these. Now you have a shortcut. Any question on this one? And I'll show you a couple of more such useful functions, which you're going to use a lot. Obviously, you don't have to build this, right? That's why I'm just showing you how it works. All right, so let's look at another function. So we looked at map, which basically takes n number of elements, and then it returns another array with the same amount of elements, right? Another called filter function. So let's say if I have an array, let nums equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and I want to filter this thing. I want to filter out anything that is greater than 3. Then again,
don't worry about building this function. We just build function that takes a number, right? I'm going to call it filter less than 3. I know, long name, which takes a number, and it would say, okay, return if a number is less than 3, less than equal to 3, or less than 3. So which means it will remove 3, 4, 5, less than 3, right? That's all I care about. Return number that is less than 3. What would this return? What type of data? Anyone? What would this return? Let's say if I build this function, right? And if I call this, I just call this console log, and let's say I pass nums. Well, 6. I pass 6 because this is a number, not nums. Okay, so I'm just passing individual number. What do you think it would return? Anyone? Without running it. It will return true or false. No, it will return true or false, right? So if 8 is less than 3, right? So if I run this, it returns false. Is number, which is 8, is this less than 3? No, so it returns false. If I say 2, then it will return true, right? It's true. So this filtered function would check if it's true, then it would keep it. If it's false, then it would remove it. That's all it is. Okay, so let's build this filter function. So let result equal to nums. It has exactly the same signature, nums dot filter, and I'm just going to pass this function. That's it. See the beauty of this? You don't have to worry about anything. You just focus on single number in here. Say, hey, filter out if it's less than 3. That's it. Okay, and then I don't have to build this function. I don't have to build how is it going to do with each number, right? Obviously, I have to print so the console log the result, right? I get 1 and 2, right? If I say filter, if I build another function called filter less than 15, then it's going to have all the numbers, right? So all you have to remember is if I want to filter something out from here, you're just going to call that array dot filter, and then you're going to build a simple callback function which takes one number and it just does this. That's it. And then just pass it in here, and then this will take care of how filtering part of it. Yeah, everybody try this and build a function that filter greater, basically greater than greater than 1. So you want to keep everything greater than 1, basically. Actually, I should not say filter. I should say keep less than 3. So keep greater than 1. So the result would be 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's build this. So this would be keep in a way, right? I give you, let's say, 5 up to 545. I think this should be pretty simple. So what this functions would allow you to do is it will make this kind of an operation much easier, right? So you don't have to build this functionality. You just use this function and then just pass this callback function, which does one tiny thing, right? So you don't have to read through the entire array, do this and build the array again and return in all that stuff, right? So your code becomes so simple and efficient. And I would recommend, when you're practicing, watch this video again. Just in case if I forget, I usually do is I would start processing the video and upload on YouTube. The only problem is sometimes it takes longer. So once it's uploaded, I don't know when it's uploaded, right? I forget to usually copy the video and put it in the Discord channel. So if I haven't put it on the Discord channel, just go check the channel and you would see the video there, right? Just look at the last video. Okay, so if I were to do this, right, keep greater than 1, it's pretty simple. I'm just gonna call keep more than 1, right? Which means that's it, more than 1, right? And I was just gonna take this. There you go. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you can even shorten this. Remember, last time we looked at a callback function. So if I want to convert this into the arrow function, I think I showed you the arrow function, which is a little different. So I can do something like this, equal to, and then number, arrow, and then I don't have to use a return if it's just a one line. And this is mostly used for anything that is one line. So I converted this into this. And if it's just a one line, I don't even need this. So the way you can write is even shorten it by okay. So if I just have a one line, I don't really need a separate function with this one. And I can copy this directly in here. So I can remove this, all of it. See how beautiful this is? Filter, the result would be take a num and then arrow. The result would be number that is greater than 1. That's it. And you actually, if you have only one argument, you don't even need this. That's it. You see how simple this is? So take the numbers and filter out anything that doesn't meet this criteria. So which means number returns any number that is greater than 1. That's it. And this is how you can write it. You don't have to write that long function, all that stuff. Okay, just simply beautiful. Let's do this. I would map this, double this, and then remove, filter anything that is greater than 9. Okay, so how do I do that? So I already know. So what I want to do is let result equal to num. So I want to double everything, right? So I would say map. Then I would say number. I'm going to take the number and then I'm going to make it on the right. So left side, you have a number, and the right side, you would say double the number. That's it. See how simple the syntax is? So this doubles the number. Okay. Then whatever that array is, I'm just going to filter it. For each number, I'm going to return where I'm just going to keep number that is greater than 6. So this would return me anything. So it would double it, right? So it will return me 8 and 10, right? Because it's going to filter out anything that is not greater than 6. So this is the power of JavaScript. In one line, I was able to do so many things without me writing that function. So now I have readability. For each number, double the number. For each number, because it's a filter, keep the number that is greater than 6. That's what it means. And filter out the rest. All right. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do something. So given this data set, half each number. So divide by 2, right? And keep anything greater than 2. Keep numbers greater than 2. Let's do that and use this syntax. So the whole objective to show you what a callback function is, so you can do this. So when you're doing it, you don't have to write any callback function, but when you're doing it, you kind of understand what's really happening. If I shown you this like before, you would understand it, but then you have no idea what's happening, right? But now you understand that this is a function that I'm passing inside this, and that does the mapping. So that was the whole objective. So now things are becoming easier. As I said, I don't want you to learn the stuff that hard way, right? I just want you to use things that are already pre-built and make use of it, which is something like this. And let me know once you're done, and then we can call it a day. Right, so if I half every number, then it would give me what? First of all, it would give me 0.5, right? Then 1, then 1.5, then 2, and then 2.5, right? So this would give me this, the first one, right? And then I want to filter anything greater than 2. Oh, sorry, keep anything greater than 2, which means I'm going to remove these 3 guys. So it should give me, oh, greater than, which means it should just give me this. That's it. 2.5. That's it. All right. So if you can remember this, you have mastered the callback function. So this was the objective. If I had, as I said, had I shown you this, you'd be like, what the heck is this, right? But the objective is to understand how it works. And once you know how it works, you can read it and you can modify it. It makes sense to you, right? So whatever you're learning, try to understand what is it rather than just simply looking at the syntax. And lastly, there is another one, which is pretty great. So let's say if I want to sum every single number. So this would return a single number. So it would take 1 plus 2 plus 3, which is 6, plus 4, which is 10, and then 15. It should return 15. Do I have to write a new function for that? No. All I have to do is what? There is I'm just going to comment this out. There is another function. So these 3 goes together: map, filter, and then another one is called reduce. So let's say let result equal to nums dot reduce. The reduce means reduce to something. Like I'll take a lot of things and reduce to one thing, right? Which means I'm going to take all the numbers and I'm going to reduce to one number. Now, what if I want to add all the numbers, right? Then all I have to say is I would take num, and I would also add another something called accumulator. What is an accumulator? So if I want to, let's say, sum everything, right? So I want a summation of everything, or I'm going to aggregate everything. Then I need a running count. So if 1 plus 2 become 3, 3 plus 3 becomes 6. So it's a running. So this is nothing but a running count. Okay. And then it would, all I'm saying is take that num and plus running count. That's it. Got it? It will take care of it. You don't have to do it. Just say number and then some sort of running count. And what you do with this running count is defined here. So what it does, it takes 1, which is this, and then initially the running count is 0. You can actually define, there's another argument here. You can say this is 0. You can initialize with 0. So reduce take two argument, a function and the initializer, right, which is 0. So then it will do, what it will do is it takes the first number, okay, and then keep this as the 0. Then it would say, okay, 1 plus 0 is what? 1. Okay, so my ACC becomes 1. Then it would take the second number, which is 2, and then it takes 1, which was the previous sum, and then it returns 2 plus 1, which is 3. So now my ACC is 3, right? Then it takes 3 plus 3, 6, and so on and so forth. And the result is not an array. Remember, because it's a reduce, which means it would produce something 1. In this case, it will just produce total of everything. Okay. So we learned map, filter. Map returns the same size of array. Filter returns smaller size than the original. It could be the same size, depends on how you're filtering, right? So it could be same size or smaller size. Reduce basically return single element, right? So the syntax is pretty simple. Once you understand it, you have to remember only 3 of these: map, filter, and reduce. Okay. Any question on this one? What if I wanna do subtraction, right? I can do minus with each number. What do I get? Minus 15, right? Because I'm starting from 0, 0 minus 1, minus 1 minus 2, like that. So you get minus 15. What if I want to start, let's say I want to keep it plus, but initially I want to start from 10, which means it's going to say 10 plus 1 plus 2, and so on and so forth. So instead of 15, I would get 25, right? So I can do that way as well, right? So I'm going to get 25. So you can play around with it, but all you have to remember is the signature of how this reduce function works, and you can do a lot of things with it. Okay. I mean, the power of it is just, you would see the things that you can do with this is just amazing, and this simple one-line thing. Okay. So yeah, that's about it, folks. The next time we can start thinking about the I think there are probably a few tiny things left, but what I can do, I can start with the React. I want to keep minimum JavaScript this time, and then within the React, I wanted to show you guys how, if there's a new things that I would show you then. Okay, there are a few things that I haven't covered, but I'll do it with that thing in mind. But I think we are pretty much ready to dive into that, so we can start building some games, things like that. All right. If there is no more question, please ask question if you have. If you're confused, feel free to come to the Friday session. The detail is in the Discord. Okay. And usually, how about this? If you're gonna, because usually what I'll do, I usually wait for people to join, right? Instead, by tomorrow or Thursday, if you think you need help, just ping me hey, I'm gonna make it to the Friday session. So if nobody's gonna show up, I can use that time to do something else. Okay. So yeah, just let me know by tomorrow. Just ping me on Discord that I'll join Friday, and then I'll keep the session open for Friday. Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
All right. See you next time.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you.
Thanks.